Good evening and welcome to The Author's Corner with your host, author Kimberly McLemore, as she welcomes her guests into the studio to discuss excerpts of their book.
Good evening and welcome to the Author's Corner. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, and thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. Tonight I have a wonderful guest in store for you. But before we get started with that, just let me take a couple minutes and tell you a little bit about myself and the purpose of our show. I am the author of How to Be a Success by Just Being You. Are You Living or Existing? The Pros and Cons of Balancing Life? And the 2019 ILA Award Author of the Year for Social Awareness for my book, Memoir, Deception of the Heart, a real look into domestic violence. I am also the CEO of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, the host of the podcast, Your Resource for Success, also right here on iHeartRadio, and the founder of Author Kimberly and McLemore, LLC. The purpose of this platform is to provide new and existing authors an opportunity to tell us their story, promote their books, and of course, any upcoming events. But let me introduce to you my first special guest. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to meet her. And so we're going to go through here and talk a little bit about Miss Jacky Rom, who is the author of From the Villainy to Vegas. Jacky grew up in Romford, Essex in the UK. She trained as a hairdresser, a makeup artiste, and drama teacher. At the age of 16, Jacky wanted to try and fulfill her first dreams by attending the London College of Fashion, train up as a makeup artiste, and go on a film set where she could make her way to becoming a director. Well, those dreams were short-lived as she was told this could never happen and to forget about it. But this was all the incentive Jacky needed to prove her advisors wrong. Jacky did attend the college, and at the same time, she became a drama teacher. Jacky wrote her first play when she was only 17 and has written and directed many plays over the years. She has spent many years in TV and film studios with her own up-and-coming actors, and from there, she decided to write her first book series in 2008 at the age of 50. In 2015, she delved into crime thrillers, writing the Sandra Bernstein Chronicles, From Makeup to Murder, and completed the follow-up novel, From Villainy to Vegas. Jacky travels around the world, giving talks to all ages about the world of entertainment and writing, as well as she has a documentary called Method of Murder, which is seen worldwide, and a weekly podcast called The Life of a Crime Novelist. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform special guest author, Jacky Rom. Hey, Jacky, how are you?
Hiya, I'm good. First of all, thank you for calling me special. I like that. And it was really quite interesting to hear my biog being read out. It kind of took me back to days gone by.
Well, you have obviously accomplished a lot then, and I'm sure a lot more since then. And I am excited to have you on and to talk about your books and, of course, all the other things that have gone on in your life, because I always love the stories that start out about what people tell you they cannot do.
I don't tell me I can't do something. That's kind of, okay. A rag to a bull telling me I can't.
Right.
Because I believe there is no such word as can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it makes me want to do it even more.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it pushes you over that edge of, how dare you? And, I think we have all heard that word more than once and many times in our lives. And that's the reason why we all continue to move forward. But I'm definitely excited to hear more about your story. But before we dive into the full interview, just tell the listeners a little bit more about who Jacky Rom is besides what I've read, because I know that there's so much more about who you are.
Yes. I like to travel. I have a second home in the Caribbean, because we say Caribbean, so I have to kind of change my thought pattern. But
okay.
So I spend 3 to 6 months a year in the Caribbean on the lovely island of Saint Martin, and that's where I go to write my books. In the last few years, I've been writing books for drama teachers, and that's been really good fun and really successful. But I first started writing a series of 5 books for 7 to 12-year-olds, and I spent most of my life on a film set. So I remember, I've always wanted to write a book, but I remember doing many courses and things like that. And the tutor's always saying, always write about what you know. And so that's why my books are mainly based on a film set. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when you're writing about what you know, it just flows.
Right.
And I also am, I run a charity as well on St. Martin. 3.5 years ago now, the island got hit by Hurricane Irma and was devastated. Mm-hmm. And along with a friend of mine, we set up something called All About a Smile. And we've been feeding, building and helping people on the island for the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
And I love it. I often get called an angel. I'm an angel. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. It's just something that I have to do. Whether, you know, people that have lost their house and I just get food and clothes and giving a child a toy when they have nothing. Wow. It's just something I have to do.
Well, and you are a blessing. And that's the thing, is that you don't look at it as a chore or an opportunity. You look at it as something that, like you said, that, you know, it just thinks it's the right thing to do. And if you have the wherewithal to be able to do that, that is the blessing of its own. And that's the beauty of it. And, you know, I'm sure everybody is very thankful for your charity and, you know, just keep doing and pushing forward in what you're doing. But let's talk about everything that you had done prior to where we are today, because you have a long laundry list of amazing accomplishments. And the thing that sticks out to me is that you had made the decision, you know, at 16 years old to say, hey, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And like we said, somebody told you, your advisor said, no, that's not for you. You need to go do something else. So what really transcended you beyond that to fulfill your dreams that you really want to fulfill?
Her telling me, she said, her words were, and I will never forget them. She said, don't be ridiculous. Think about a proper job. That was her words. I was actually in her room because it was a school advisor. Mm-hmm. And they were asking about, what did you want to do? I was 16. What did you want to do when you left school? And I said, I want to be a director. And she said, don't be ridiculous. Go and find a real job, a proper job, and come back the next day. So I went back the next day and said to her, okay, I'm going to be a makeup artist. She said, that's better. She said, how are you going to train? And I said, I'm going to go to the London College of Fashion, which was the best place in the world to go at that time. And she said, you'll never get in. And that was the last thing she said to me. And of course, I did get in.
Right.
I became very successful. But in my mind, being a makeup artist and getting on the set I could go from there to become a director. And I have no idea how in my mind I was going to actually do that. But it happened. Mm-hmm. And I did do it. But it was a long road. And I'm full of energy, so I've always got 2, 3, 4 things on a go. Mm-hmm. So one thing is earning a living, which we all have to do. Right. But I never, ever lost sight of my goals. But I must tell you something that only happened this week, which was absolutely fascinating. I worked on the film The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan. Oh, and wow. I worked for 4 months on that film, and I supplied the stand-in, Lindsay Lohan stand-in. So there was Lindsay, who played 2 parts. I don't know if you remember the film.
I do.
She plays the little English girl and the American, the 2 sisters. Mm-hmm. And her best friend was her her body double, because you had to have, she was dressed like Lindsay, and then they would film from behind, and so that you saw both of them. And then they would move out, and my girl that I took would then be the stand-in while they changed the lights and everything. So I was on that film for 4 months, and it's the 20th or the 25th anniversary. And on YouTube this week, they'd all got together on Zoom and had this event where they were all looking back at making The Parent Trap. Mm-hmm. And so I was watching it, and there was all different clips because I was in it as well. And so it was a lovely memory.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it was
amazing. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're much bigger than I could have ever anticipated, because you're talking about the film The Parent Trap, and I remember that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So that is amazing that you truly have had these experiences. But when you had originally started out, your experience was you brought up your own actors, your own people, so that you could do the things that you want to do in TV and film. So how did you get found to be able to play that role for Parent Trap?
No, what happened was I was teaching from the time I was 18. I was teaching drama to young people. Mm-hmm. It got to probably 10 years after that, where you get to a level where you're teaching young people where you need to go to the next step. So I became an agent. And then you would get a job where a child is needed on a film set for a month, say, for example, mm-hmm. and they would pay me to take the child. So I would take the opportunity to be the chaperone and go and take the child to the film set. And then they would say, well, can you just walk across there and just do that? And so they would pay you extra to do that. So I was always on set with an actor. And that's how I ended up doing lots of films. I was also in with Richard Gere in Sean Connery in First Night, which was the story of Camelot. Yeah. Wow. Sean Connery was lovely. Yeah. I'll tell you the good things.
I can agree with you on that one.
So that was fun. But there was a lot of special effects on that film, which was really good fun. And especially when the horse, when you're working with animals, that's mm-hmm. fun. Yeah.
Wow.
So I spent most of my life, but working on the film set just gives you the inspiration. Mm-hmm. I've got a scene in my first children's book where they're at Pinewood Studios, which is the big studios in London, where they make all the Bond movies. They made all the Mummy mm-hmm. 1, 2, and whatever, they made a full scale pyramid, and I took her. I had 6 boys on a film, something else on a television show, mm-hmm. and I tried to get them. We were walking around the film set, and I tried to get into the pyramids, and we got stopped. But when it came to writing, and my main character, she's only 11, gets kidnapped. She gets put inside the pyramid from the film The Mummy. But because I was there and I saw it.
Wow. I'm sitting there like, man, I would love to be in your world. Okay.
Yeah, it's all make believe.
But it's amazing. Like you said, you get to use your imagination, and then having the opportunity to be on site with these other amazing actors, and you're just being a part of it. Even if you weren't in the film, just being a part of the action and seeing everything that goes around you, that is inspiration enough. So you go from, obviously you're still a part of TV and films, and then you decide that you took some time off from work. And during this time that you took off of work, you said, you know what am I going to do? I'm going to write a book. so
that was exactly how it happened. And I booked 4 weeks off of work, and I'd never had 4 weeks, never. Right. And I thought, well, I can't sit around for 4 weeks. What shall I do? Oh, I know. I'll write a book. So I sat down and thought, right, I know I must write about what I know. I know I'm going to write a children's book. Mm-hmm. Now, hold on. And then it turned into a series of 5 books. And I sat down, and the first thing I did was write the title of the 5 books. And that never changed. Mm-hmm. And I wrote all 5. I only wrote the first book. It went in that 4 weeks. But I remember when I finished writing it, it was about the same time as Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, and right. I knew the story that she had tried many, many publishers and couldn't get published. Mm-hmm. And I finished the book, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to follow in her footsteps. I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to do this myself. And then I thought, well, I don't want to self-publish because there's something there wasn't enough credibility in self-publishing. Mm-hmm. So I set up my own publishing house,
Oh, wow.
No, but there's one other thing that's really funny. So I set up my own publishing house so no one knew I was my publisher. So
Wow.
the next thing I did was I invented a little girl. And to make her name, the first book that I ever wrote was Little Women by Louisa M. Alcott. So I took the name Alcott, and don't ask me why, but I came up with Poppy Alcott. So I knew, or I found out doing investigation, that the most profitable thing to do as an author was to have your books in libraries, because every time anyone reads your book, you get paid money. So I thought, okay, so that's forever. So I telephoned every single library in United Kingdom, hundreds and hundreds of libraries. And I said, or I wrote to them and emailed them and said, my name is Poppy Alcott. I'm 10 years old. I've just, I didn't ring, I emailed. I've just read a book by me. And I think that the children that come to your library would enjoy this book. And every library bought the book.
Boy, you talk about clever. Okay, that is beyond clever. And especially during that time frame, because in 2008, you're right, self-publishing wasn't even as popular. I think more of it was just coming out. I remember when I wrote my first book, I believe was back in 2008 or somewhere around that time. And self-publishing was very unique and different. And it took me to write the second book before I realized, okay, if you're going to do the self-publishing thing, you really need to understand that whole process and what it takes. And after going through and actually taking a full course and understanding the steps that it takes, because you're right, it's very unique. And when you don't have a real publisher, people don't know who you are. So the struggle is real when you decide to go self-publishing. But the way that you went about that is amazing, because you decided that I'm going to do my own publishing company. I'm going to be the child that says, hey, this is the book you need to have. And then to go and say, hey, all of you people in these libraries, you need to listen to this kid. She knows what she's talking about.
Then that wasn't the end. Then I wrote to so many schools and said, I will come in and do free workshops as long as you buy. It was something like 25 books. Wow. So, and that they go in your library. And I can't tell you how I traveled up and down the country. And what would happen is I'd do these free workshops, but the schools would buy 25 books, something like that. But then after school, at the end of school, I would do a signing, and all these children wanted to buy the books because I was the author that was there. Right. So I sold thousands of books by just traveling to these schools. And I did the same in the Caribbean as well. I get noticed a lot in the Caribbean. I'll be sitting in a restaurant and somebody will come up to me and go, are you Jacky Ram? Yes.
Yes. What can I help you?
Like, yes. Do I owe you money? And we love your books. And then they start telling, I don't know if yours are more technical than mine, because mine is a novel, and they all kind of know my lead character, like they know her personally. So they'll say, I just love Sandy, and then they'll start telling me about some event that that happened in a book. Right. It's not, and I feel like saying it's not real.
But when people read, they feel like they're a part of everything. So even though, and they know it's not real, it's just that's something that they can connect to. And then of course they have the opportunity to meet the author. That's rare. So, and then of course not have to worry about paying or standing in a line to see that author. So it's amazing that you can have those conversations, and people are so excited about what you've done. But you definitely have moved on to other books that you had wrote. So even though you had wrote that first book in the first 4 weeks, you've actually completed that full series, and there was 5 books, and then you dived into completing the full series.
I must tell you why. So people would say, what do you do? And I say, I'm an author. And then they'd say, oh, what do you write? And as I say, well, I write children's books, you would physically see people's shoulders drop as if they were going to go, oh, as if that's easy. So it was, well, I'll show you. Mm-hmm. I got fed up of people thinking that it was easy to write kids' books. So I decided I was going to write an adult crime fiction. Right? This is funny. So I sat down and thought, right, what am I going to write? I know, I like CSI and Law and Order. I'll write crime fiction.
Wow.
Honestly, it was that simple. So then I sat down and thought, hold on a minute. I know nothing about the law. I know nothing about crime. I'm not a murderer, so I don't know anything. So I actually spent about 8 months with police officers, criminals, con artists. Yeah, so the research has been the best bit. So then I decided to book the first book. I decided to base in the Caribbean, on a Dutch island. So not only did I have to find out the Dutch law, because everything happens on a Dutch island. So I spent time with both, with Dutch police and British police. That was fun. And then the second book, I decided it was going to be based in Vegas. And I wanted, this is also funny. So I decided, I've been to Vegas many times, but I wanted to see behind the scenes, because I knew that behind was just as big as what we see in front. And so I wrote to every casino and said, would you let me see behind the scenes? And they all said no. So I won't go through the whole story, but eventually I managed to get a casino to say yes. And it was Derek Stevens at the D in downtown Vegas said yep, and gave me full access. So on the day I got full access, I phoned my dad and went, Dad, I've got full access in a casino. And my dad said, sounds like a documentary to me. And that's how my
Method of Murder,
which is on Amazon Prime and can be seen around the world now.
Well, I'll be darned. So let's back up a little bit. So when you wrote the book Villainy to Vegas, you said you actually had the opportunity to get that full access. So
I have to.
So
it's actually Vegas to Villainy.
Okay.
So it may be. You may have an old, because it did start as Villainy to Vegas, and then it got changed. So maybe you got an old biog or something.
Yeah. Okay. but I think things interesting. So with this book Vegas to Villainy, because you had started that, and then, like I said, your dad said, hey, this is bigger than just a book. So is the Method of Murder based off of the book Vegas to Villainy?
No, it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. Okay.
Yeah. So I did my research in Vegas, which was documented by a documentary. So once I'd got all the information, I then went and wrote Vegas to Villainy. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's all about me researching. So I go around Vegas and LA asking people, if you were going to murder someone, how would you do it and how would you hide the body?
Did people think you were crazy?
No. Have you
really?
seen it? Have you seen the documentary?
No, I didn't want to read it yet. I didn't want to see it yet. I wanted to have the interview and then go back.
Oh, no. You need to watch it. I have a go at everything. I try and bury a body. I try and shoot people, bow and arrow, dig a grave.
Wow.
So it's all about me. You know, I just think that if I'm going to write something, I have to. I mean, I'm not going to kill someone. So, but I like to do.
We appreciate that, Jacky. We really do.
But I like to experience as much as possible. So even handling a gun, because don't forget we're a no gun culture here in the UK. I've never even held a gun.
Oh wow.
So and people were so amazing. They honestly, you hear so many ways of people how they would like to murder someone, and I wanted to, what I wanted to do, but I never got to do it. I wanted to see if I could get a body out of a casino without getting caught.
Really?
But no, and I took an actor with me, but no one would let me do it. It was only pretend. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, well, they probably was like, okay, lady, I think we need to take you somewhere. This is was not the place. So I just think it's very interesting that I love how you just dive so into your research. I mean, you truly live it out so that you can understand what it means to write. And it's funny because a lot of us as authors, we write on our, not just on our feelings, but obviously on the things that we've gone through in our lives, and we share that information. But I've never met anybody who has gone the 10 nines to get it the way that book specifically needs to be. And you're right. I mean, because if you don't know anything about murder and crime, and it's not what you normally do in life. So
exactly.
How are you going to write about it? But it's like, it's just cool how you did that.
So the next book, which is the current book I'm writing, which is Fame to Felony, is set in England. It's the first book in England, and it's set in a little town where there is a holiday camp which is full of like mobile homes, and it's set in the 1970s. But we have a lot of these holiday villages here in England, and I've just spent 8 months living in one.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So the characters I've met, and it's so funny because most of the people that work at where I've been know what I'm doing. And I've they have what they call a clubhouse, which is like a theatre, a restaurant. There's an arcade with children's games and like a casino, but for children type of thing. And it's and there's people, and it's bright, and there's comedians on, and there's kids entertainers, and I've sat there for 8 months, and everyone knows what I'm doing, and they kind of all want to be in the book, and they're all waiting to see what happens, to see who appears in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
funny.
That's neat. You can't get it any better than that. And those are the book. It just sounds so exciting. Everything that you've done, and like I said, you've traveled the world. Because even previously, before you started talking about your books, your murder books, you've been to Beijing, your children's books, they were produced there. I mean, all the things that you've done, seems so exciting. And then of course, now you've had this weekly podcast called The Life of Crime of Novelist. And so that's interesting. So do you have true criminals come on, or is it just based off of different?
Yes. Yes. I've had a couple of guests that have been amazing. One is a murder squad detective who I've known for a very long time, but I wasn't allowed to. I'm not allowed to say his name because over his time as the murder squad, there's an awful lot of criminals that he caught, and so he's not. I wouldn't say he's in hiding, but you just can't, you don't mention him. And he tells the most gruesome story, because I had to ask. So I said to him, what's the most gruesome thing you've seen? And he tells you. And so that's on one episode. And then I interviewed a real hardened criminal who'd been in and out of prison in America many, many times at all different levels, the hardest of prisons, and then suddenly turned his life around and is now amazing, and he now works with young offenders. So I interviewed him as well. Yeah. So, but I've also, I don't know if I don't think I've explained this one. During lockdown, I recorded 20 live interviews, live, over Zoom and Skype, and of ordinary people with extraordinary lives. And I released the first season on YouTube, which was just 6 episodes. And then today I've just launched season 2. And he's a West End choreographer. But these are all just ordinary people, but they have incredible lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are amazing me right now. I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness.
But because of lockdown, I had to do it all myself. So I was the cameraman, director, producer, editor. I did everything. Set design, the lot. It was funny.
That's amazing. But you have that talent. You know what you want. You know how to get it done. That's how you started your career, by doing everything and bringing up certain people and, like I said, the coming actors and so forth. And now, you have that wherewithal. There's no reason that, like you said, that you can't do what you want to do, and nobody's going to tell you what you can and cannot do. And you've proven that, and you continue to prove that. I'm definitely going to be going back and reviewing your documentary, because I know you sent it to me, but I was like, no, I want to wait. I want to see it and try to do the reviews and go back and do everything else, because I think it's amazing.
You'll enjoy it now. You'll enjoy it now, because now we've met and we've chatted.
Exactly.
You'll enjoy the documentary. Yeah, no, so please, your listeners, go and watch Method of Murder on Amazon Prime.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. And I do want to ask, do you have anything else that you would like to share with the listeners about what else you have coming up and where they can find more information about you and so forth?
Yeah, if you go on to jackyrom.com, but I'm a JACKYROM. So it's really simple, jackyrom.com, and all the links are on there. But yeah, people watching the documentary is just brilliant. And of course, the new YouTube series, Jacky Rom Investigates, where I get to talk to these amazing people. Literally, I was doing like interviews in Japan, Hong Kong, LA, London. So I would do an interview at midnight and then another one at 6 o'clock in the morning, because they were just all around the world.
Right.
Yeah, fascinating.
Very fascinating. You are fascinating. I am just excited that I've had the opportunity to spend time with you and hear your story. I mean, it just makes me want to continue to move further into what I'm doing. And for those who are listening, dreams do come true, but you have to believe in yourself. And that's the number one key. And when somebody told you couldn't do it and they keep telling you can't do it, that's when you prove them wrong. And it doesn't matter what other people think. And I think that's the whole thing that I want people to understand about this interview. It's not about where you're coming from. It's about where you're going and what you can accomplish, but it's about believing who you are. And Jacky Rom, you are definitely that woman. You are I'm just amazed. I'm just sitting here like, I am just so excited that I was connected with you. And, like I said, you're doing this interview with me tonight. And I know, it's a little later there than where I'm at here. But again, I appreciate you spending time with me this evening.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And, confidence is what it's all about. Big, deep breath and just go do it.
There you go. So you guys heard it live right here on the Author's Corner with the author, Jacky Rom. And the book that we specifically talked a little bit about was Vegas to Villainy, but we have so much more in this interview. So for those who have missed this, you go back and listen to the replay as often as you want. Definitely support Jacky and go out there to YouTube and get on her channels and listen to all those famous interviews, but just support. That's all we look for, because that's what makes us continue to do what we're doing for you all. But again, I thank you all for coming on to the show this evening here at the Author's Corner. I am the host, Kimberly McLemore. Remember, now that we're in the month of November, December, we are off because it's the holiday season. It's time for us to rejoice, take a little break, and then of course come back again in January. And also remember, the Author's Corner has we collaborated with WSBI, Your Resource for Success podcast. So we will no longer have a separate entity. They will be fused into one. So we will have just as many authors on the show with other amazing, great business people. But I do appreciate everyone coming on and spending time with me right here on the Author's Corner. And for all the last few years that we've all been together, just all you have to do is know that we're moving right next door. But anyway, have a wonderful evening, and thank you again all for your support. We'll see you in 2021. Good night.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next month on Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with 2 more amazing guests. Follow us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at author Kimberly McLemore. Music by Audionautics.com.